888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. So much to get to. Chaos continues on the southern border. Don't call it a crisis. Targets and Walgreens are making dramatic changes due to the increase in thefts in their stores in San Francisco. Mark Lamont Hill, who is a hyper-lefty, you often see him on CNN and MSNBC, which I watch so you don't have to. Remember Judge Joe Brown? They got into a heated debate on Bill Cosby. I was in the uncomfortable position of agreeing with Mark Lamont Hill for the first time I can think of. Mark Lamont Hill made a commonsensical observation that despite the fact that Bill Cosby is free does not mean he didn't do the things he was alleged of having done. Joe Brown said he deserves a presumption of innocence. He's innocent. And he began to malign the women who brought charges. You know, you give somebody some drugs, sex, drugs, rock and roll. They have sex, drugs, rock and roll. There have been 60 women who made allegations against this man, many of whom have been black. I guess they're lying too. And Cosby used the race card. It's an example of a racist criminal justice system trying to bring down a successful black man. Wow. Move over, OJ. Man who couldn't find the black community without a roadmap and a guide dog before he murdered two people, all of a sudden blacker than Malcolm X. Inflation, many are calling the silent killer, as many retirees are beginning to feel the sting of rising prices. Let me tell you how radical the woke culture is. The head of France, Macron, says the woke culture that they have imported from America is radicalizing France. The woke culture is too left-wing for France. Representative Cori Bush, St. Louis, blasted the July 4th celebrations. He says, quote, black people still aren't free, close quote. Wow. I'm not? Managed to get up in the morning. I didn't run into massa. Didn't see any cotton. Got into my car, drove here, walked in. Nobody stopped me. I'm doing this show. I'm not free. Maybe she didn't get the memo. Civil War, 1865, Emancipation Proclamation, Juneteenth. Ever heard of it? No? But I want to start with this. The National Education Association represents some 2.5 million of the 3 million public school teachers. They've approved funding for critical race theory. But we were told they're only studying that in law school. Bull. They voted to, quote, increase the implementation of critical race theory in K through 12. They've conveyed their support to join with, quote, Black Lives Matter at school and the Zen Education Project. You know who Howard Zinn is? He is a historian who's made the argument that America got prosperous because America stepped on, you name it, Native Americans, blacks, browns, continues to do so. The resolution also promised to study the, quote, empire, white supremacy, anti-blackness, anti-indigeneity, racism, patriarchy, hysteropatriarchy, capitalism, ableism, and anthropocentrism. They also passed a resolution to research the organizations who oppose critical race theory, including grassroots parents' organizations, and provide operative resources for attacking them. Now, if you don't think there has been a case made for vouchers after this, I don't know what will. Apparently, you're not going to be able to stop your kids from learning about critical race theory, so maybe you can perhaps get your kid into a school where they don't do this kind of nonsense. Critical race theory. I'm in California. 75% of the black kids cannot read at state levels of proficiency, and we're going to inject critical race theory. How about teaching them how to read, write, and compute at grade level? Is this thing on? 50% of all the kids in California altogether cannot read at state levels of proficiency. And this is what they're doing. Spending more money than ever, more resources than ever, and it goes up every year here in California because it's attached to the state budget. 25% roughly of the state budget automatically goes to education every single year. Every single year the budget goes up. So therefore, every single year more money is spent on education. And look at the results. And this is what these people are doing. I've told you about the percentage of public school teachers who have their own school-age kids in private school. 44%, according to a study some years ago, of Philadelphia public school teachers have their own school-age kids in private schools. 39% of public school teachers in Chicago do. And around 28% of teachers, Los Angeles Unified Public School District, have their own kids, school-age kids in private school, as opposed to 10% of American families nationwide and 6% of black families nationwide. So that means here in L.A., public school teachers are roughly 3 times more likely to have their own kids in private school than non-public school teachers, and 5 times more likely to have their own kids in private schools than black families. What does that tell you? And you wonder why there's inequality. How in the hell do you expect there to be inequality if you don't get a quality education, which is the foundation towards getting to the middle class? What did the left-wing Brookings Institution say? 3 steps. The millennial sequence sequence. Number 1, finish high school. Number 2, don't have a kid until you get married. Number 3, get a job, keep the job, don't quit that job till you get another job. You will not be poor. But step 1, at least finish high school, presumably one where the students can read, write, and compute at grade level. And now they're embracing critical race theory. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana had a few things to say.
The country's largest teachers union says it supports teaching critical race theory in the public school, even though parents across the country have pushed back on that. Republican Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. How you doing, sir? I know you've got a lot to say about this. Let me show you what the National Education Association statement says on that. By the way, 3.2 million union members strong. Publicly, through existing media, convey its support for the accurate and honest teachings of social studies topics, including truthful and age-appropriate accountings of unpleasant aspects of American history. In teaching these topics, it's reasonable and appropriate for curriculum to be informed by academic frameworks for understanding and interpreting the impact of the past on current society, including critical race theory. Here's the deal. The union wants it. But even the far-left progressives thought this is too much, it's too complicated, we'll save it for special classes or special courses for older students. But the union wants it from the kindergarten to the 12th grade. How's that going to go?
Critical race theory is a fairy tale promoted by many, not all, but many of my Democratic colleagues, including the Biden White House. Critical race theory teaches that America is totally screwed. We need to just tear it down and start over. Critical race theory teaches that the primary reason that America was founded was to maintain white supremacy. Not freedom, not rule of law, not equal opportunity, not personal responsibility, but white supremacy. Critical race theory also teaches that black Americans are racist, that they don't much like black people, whether those non-black Americans realize it or not. That's why critical race theory also teaches that white children are born bad. It teaches that black children are born trapped. There's almost no hope for them. It's a very fatalistic point of view. In my judgment, critical race theory is cynical, ahistorical, sophomoric, insipid, and dumb as a bag of hair.
Dumb as a bag of hair. This guy can turn a phrase, can't he? More on Senator Kennedy's reaction to critical race theory when we come back. Cori Bush, blacks aren't free. Don't tell that to Smokey Robinson. All of that and more, 888-971-SAGE. I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Jews wrote half of the most popular Christmas songs. I mean, statistically, this is not, it's just a fact. And even though it was not their religious holiday, it was their national holiday. Christmas was a unifying thing for Americans till the left crapped on Christmas and changed Christmas party to holiday party, and Christmas vacation to holiday vacation, and Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays. And then, as usual, they deny they did it. Just like now, they deny that they ever called for the defunding of police. Every leftist lies or they wouldn't be a leftist. Liberals lie and tell truth. Conservatives lie and tell truth. But leftists all lie. They lie with the ease with which they speak. We make war on Christmas? How laughable. We called for the defunding of police? What, are you out of your minds? I read to you that last week. That's the new thing. We never said defund the police. Yeah, that's right. We changed everything with the word Christmas into holiday, but hey, there's no war on Christmas. And people believe it. For better and worse, the United States really is one of a kind. And he speaks about America, as I have often, as based on an idea. It's the point. It's not an ethnic country. It's an idea. You have the American idea, you are American. That's the way it is. We don't care about your ethnicity, believe it or not.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Sometime next year, the Supreme Court will decide whether to continue to find the right to abortion in the Constitution or give up on its deeply misguided half-century-long effort to do so. The court will have before it the case of Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization and the constitutionality of a 2018 Mississippi law that banned abortions after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. The court will also be deciding on whether or not to uphold a poor decision made at the intellectual low ebb of its post-war era. The court made law at Roe v. Wade, and Justice Blackmun's opinion was simply awful in its reasoning. In fact, I would argue the 1973 was the point of origin of the culture wars, because in Roe, the court seized territory reserved for the state legislatures. Will the court let us have peace at the cost of admitting that its ambition to rule was the real spark for the fires long burning? Wisdom, and the express language of the Constitution, counsels it to quit the field. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Folks, I'm talking to my friend Jenna Ellis, and I apologize, but the conversation has become substantive. Let's go back. What is the moral basis of our Constitution? That's the title of your book.
Yes.
It is really vital that people understand this. Can you make that case in short order?
Yeah, so our Declaration of Independence gives us the worldview statement that our founders unanimously recognize that when governments are abridging and infringing upon our rights that are God-given, then we appeal to the highest source of moral law, which is God himself. He is the personification of truth. And they said unanimously in the Declaration that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They went on to say that governments are instituted among men only to protect and preserve.
Hey Larry, hope you're, this is Michael from Mobile, Alabama. I was just following up. You know, President Trump must be a squeaky clean individual. And what I'm referring to is the latest witch hunt or hoax the Democrat Party has gone after. I'm sure you've heard about what's happening in New York, going after, I believe, the Trump chief financial officer, I believe, for the Trump organization. And, you know, this is the best they can do. He must be squeaky clean. I mean, really think about this. I mean, 4, 5, possibly even 6 years, you know, because I'm sure they probably knew that he was thinking about running before he even come down the escalator. You know, and they can't find anything on this guy. Nothing.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. To that end, there's an article on the Jewish Voice. We put it up on LarryElder.com. It's called Trump Must Be Extremely Clean If This Is All the New York Prosecutors Can Come Up With. Again, we'll put it up on LarryElder.com. We'll talk about it later on in the show. Now, if you are a homeowner, you need to consider a mortgage refinance while rates are still low. I mean it. You could miss out on hundreds of dollars in monthly savings. Do not let that happen. Call American Financing, America's home for home loans, and take advantage of a free no-obligation mortgage review. There's no pressure, no upfront fees, no hidden fees. They are not like that. This is a company that's in it for you, doing whatever it takes to save you up to $1,000 a month without resetting your loan. Because at American Financing, they can write any term, 10 years and over. You might even be able to postpone 2 mortgage payments. So don't put a refinance off any longer. Pre-qualify for free by calling 866-886-2026. That's 866-886-2026. Or visit AmericanFinancing.net. That's AmericanFinancing.net. American Financing, NMLS 182334, NMLS ConsumerAccess.org. We've been talking about the support for critical race theory by the largest teachers union, National Education Association, that represents almost 2.5 of the 3 million public school teachers. Here is more of what John Kennedy, the senator from Louisiana, said about this nonsense.
America is not a racist country. We have racists in it, just like everywhere else. But most Americans, black and white, think a whole lot more about character than they do about race. They believe in equality. And most Americans understand that to a bear, we all taste like chicken.
You know, I've told you about the interview that Martin Luther King gave in the mid-'60s to the BBC. And he said the last couple of years have surprised me. The rate at which America has become more fair has surprised me. He said, I could imagine we could have a black president in about 40 years' time. Bingo! That's about exactly when it happened. Again, he didn't say we're going to have a CEO of McDonald's, which we've had. There'll be a CEO of Merrill Lynch, which we had. There'll be a president of Larry Elder's alma mater, Brown University, female black woman, which has happened. He didn't say when roughly 10% of the House will be black, as is roughly that percentage of the American population, which has happened. He didn't say when there'll be black mayors of virtually every major American city, which has happened. He didn't say when there'll be a governor of one of the states of the Confederacy, Virginia, which happened. He talked about the president. Why? Because in the privacy of the voting booth or in the privacy of your mail-in ballot, you can do any damn thing you want. And if you choose not to vote for somebody black, no one's going to even know about it. How is it that Obama got a higher percentage of the black vote than John Kerry? How is it that Trump got a lower percentage of the white vote in 2016 than Mitt Romney? How is it that out of all the counties that voted twice for Obama, 2008, 2012, 200 of them switched to Donald Trump? When were they bitten by the racist radioactive spider? This is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And all you're doing is giving somebody an excuse. Overcoming laziness is one of the hardest things in life. Few kids enjoy doing homework. We already have the phenomenon of black kids doing less homework every night than Hispanic kids, who in turn do less homework at night than white kids, who in turn do less homework at night than Asian American kids, which means black kids do substantially less homework every night than Asian American kids. What is that all about? How is systemic racism stopping you from doing homework? But why bother? You've got these people in Congress all making money. Jesse Jackson, multi-millionaire. Louis Farrakhan, multi-millionaire. Al Sharpton has to be a multimillionaire. How do you get $5 million light in taxes unless you're a multimillionaire? All telling you that systemic racism is holding you back. Not them, but you. And you're not insulted by this. You're not insulted by somebody like Joe Biden saying, well, the reason black businesses don't do quite as well is not because the black business people aren't sharp. It's because they don't have access to lawyers and accountants. What? Well, the reason blacks aren't getting vaccinated is they don't have access to computers. And by the way, Charlemagne the God, you ain't really black if you don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or Joe Biden. You're not insulted by that? You're not insulted by this man who's lied for decades about his alleged civil rights record? Well, you know, I used to go to churches, black churches. I grew up in the black church. I love roaches jumping on my lap. I grew up in the black church. We used to organize how to strategize on how to move on restaurants in Wilmington and desegregate theaters and restaurants. Zero evidence he ever did any of that. And according to the New York Times that fact-checked it, aides, quote, gently told Biden, close quote, to stop saying it, and he kept saying it anyway. What does that say? It's insulting. How did Obama do it? Didn't even grow up with a father. How did he do it? How did that happen? Racism. I just saw an article about one of the Obama daughters, whichever one goes to Ivy League school, which I forget which one. White boyfriend. When I was born, it was illegal for interracial marriage, black-white marriages, in about a dozen states. That wasn't overturned until 1967. Now over 90% of Americans say they have no problem with interracial marriage. And we're teaching critical race theory. Why weren't they teaching this when Obama was here? How come this all came in about Obama? Reparations after Obama. Why? It's a con. Democrats do it for votes. Media does it because they support the Democrat agenda and they do it for ratings. It's a con. I'm Larry Elder.
You're listening to the Larry Elder Show.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
So critical race theory actually is indoctrinating our children to tell them that if you are white, you are an oppressor. You are innately designed to be racist. And if you are black, you are oppressed. In other words, you will never have the opportunities that the white person has. And the little boy or the little girl that's sitting beside you in your classroom is the reason why. This is why it's such a divisive, and in itself, it's completely racist.
Well, it is. I mean, that's what I love about people who scream racism are often guilty of the racism themselves. I mean, this it's the quintessential projection. How can you condemn children who've done nothing wrong? How do you make victims and oppressors out of kids in elementary school?
Well, this is what fired me up. This is what got me initially so upset, is that, you know, I watch my 10-year-old son play football with little boys from every race, from every walk of life, every religion. And I watch them as they help each other up on the field when they get knocked down. I watch them give each other high fives. I watch them do chest bumps, right? They are not thinking, oh, you're black, so I can't touch you, or, oh, you're less than me. Guess what? They've got blacks, whites, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews. They're all playing together, and they're all respecting each other, and they're all caring for each other. Why would you put such a divisive theory or ideology into a school system?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Jews wrote half of the most popular Christmas songs. I mean, statistically, this is not, it's just a fact. And even though it was not their religious holiday, it was their national holiday. Christmas was a unifying thing for Americans till the left crapped on Christmas and changed Christmas party to holiday party, and Christmas vacation to holiday vacation, and Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays. And then, as usual, they deny they did it. Just like now, they deny that they ever called for the defunding of police. Every leftist lies or they wouldn't be a leftist. Liberals lie and tell truth. Conservatives lie and tell truth. But leftists all lie. They lie with the ease with which they speak. We make war on Christmas? How laughable. We called for the defunding of police? What, are you out of your minds? I read to you that last week. That's the new thing. We never said defund the police. Yeah, that's right. We changed everything with the word Christmas into holiday, but hey, there's no war on Christmas. And people believe it. For better and worse, the United States really is one of a kind. And he speaks about America, as I have often, as based on an idea. It's the point. It's not an ethnic country. It's an idea. You have the American idea, you are American. That's the way it is. We don't care about your ethnicity, believe it or not.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Dear Larry, I just walked in the door. I heard someone say that you shouldn't run, and of course it's a difficult decision. Lose your voice, that platform you have, but also I thought of the Word of God saying, in which it does say, anyone that knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it sins. I mean, I hate to say the sin part, but I mean, if you're knowing the good that you should do and God is prompting you by His Holy Spirit, I think that's the right thing to do. And I will vote for you. I think we'd all vote for you, and we need to get rid of this liberal insanity going on in our state. That would be awesome if you would be our governor, Larry. I'm praying for you. We prayed this morning. God bless you, my brother.
Hi, Larry. Bill from Pennsylvania. I was astonished to hear that you're thinking about running for governor of California. Well, let me tell you something. The people that are saying that you'll lose your voice, that's not true. You're taking your voice to Sacramento and for the people of your state. Go for it, brother.
Hey, Larry, it's Richie Rich from Phoenix. Hey, buddy, I'm hearing all this chatter about you running for governor of Cali. You know, this would be devastating for me because I listen to you every night when I'm out, you know, doing my deliveries. But tell you what, Larry, it might be a blessing in disguise because once you go to governor from Cali, next step might be that White House, Larry, one day. I don't know. Could be the best thing for the country, buddy. You governor and then to get to the presidency. I love it. Talk to you later, Larry. Love you.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243, Larry Elder, ReliefFactor.com studio. We've been talking about critical race theory. I'll get back to Senator John Kennedy in just a second. First, Michael is in San Francisco. Michael, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, you know, this far-right freak-out over critical race theory has been around in one form or another since the film Birth of a Nation. Oh, just look what happened. They'll want revenge if they get into power. It's old, it's repetitive. And let me just ask you a question. By your theory, then, Branch Rickey obviously was a virulent racist because he purposely picked Jackie Robinson because Jackie Robinson was a black man.
Michael, I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about. This is almost unintelligible.
That's right, because you don't know anything about.
No, because I'm stupid, right, Michael? I'm an idiot. You're the only one who understands.
No.
Michael, let's start over again.
Michael,
let's start. I'm sure you do, Michael. You're from San Francisco. Michael, let's start over again. Tell me.
No, I just actually study history. But go ahead.
Well, I'm sure you have, Michael. You're probably the only one in this conversation who's ever studied it. I understand. I yield to your superior knowledge.
More than you.
I yield to your superior knowledge. May I ask you a question? What specifically did I say that you objected to? What specifically did I say that you objected to?
You are complaining about critical race theory. First of all, you say that it's new. It's been around for
I don't recall having said it's new. I said, why didn't it come up during the Obama administration?
Say, why is it coming in now? Why now? Why now? All the changes have happened. In the 60s.
Wait, Michael. Michael, can you answer that question before you?
Saying we don't need
Michael, I'm not going to talk over you. If you're going to just sit here and berate me, this is not a conversation. I thought we could have an intelligent conversation, even though you're from the Bay Area. So let's start over again, okay, Michael? Specifically, What did I say that you object to?
I beg your pardon? What did you say?
What did I say specifically that you objected to? Why did you call? Why are you so upset?
Because there is nothing, and I mean nothing, wrong with teaching critical race theory to advanced students.
Okay, Michael. Let me ask you another question, then, please.
Intelligent and
you've answered that question. Thank you. Exactly, what is your definition of critical race theory?
The definition that is normally accepted is to look at history through the lens of race.
Look at history through the lens of race.
Yes.
You mean history is all about race?
No.
I'm asking.
It's one viewpoint among many. See how goofy the argument you make is? You go right.
Yeah, Michael. I'm sure I'm the one who sounds goofy. I'm sure I'm the one who sounds goofy, not you.
Nobody says it's all about race.
Excuse me, Michael. Michael, is critical race theory arguing that inequality is a result of race? Is that what critical race theory is arguing? I'm asking.
That's one argument among many.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe?
And to argue the opposite is to deny that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west.
Okay, Michael. Is anybody denying that there is racism in America? Is anybody denying that there's bigotry? Is anybody denying that there's bigotry in America? I'm talking to one right now.
You're doing your level.
You're bigoted against me because I have a different point of view than you do.
No, that's a third grader's use of the word.
Of course,
excuse me.
Of course it is. I'm an idiot. You're superior.
No. You're trying so hard.
Michael, I don't believe racism remains a major factor in America. You do, and that's the problem here. You do. I don't.
I didn't say that.
Okay. Also, you don't. So you don't. So you don't believe. So you don't
want to teach anything.
So you don't believe racism remains
evil.
Excuse me. So you don't believe racism is a major problem in America either. Then what are we arguing about?
No. I'm saying that you don't think it's anything about race should ever be taught anywhere because everything's fine, nothing to worry about. It's all those liberals.
Did I say everything is fine? I'll tell you what I think the number one problem. I'll tell you what I think the number one problem in the black community is. May I tell you that? Absent fathers.
You can tell me.
Absent fathers. Do you think that's because of racism?
Absolutely.
Really? Really? You think that 70% of black kids born outside of wedlock, when it was 25% in 1965, is because of racism? I would argue it's because of left-wing policies that have incentivized women to marry the government and allowed men to abandon their financial and moral responsibilities. We disagree, Michael. I'm Larry Elder.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Sometime next year, the Supreme Court will decide whether to continue to find the right to abortion in the Constitution or give up on its deeply misguided half-century-long effort to do so. The court will have before it the case of Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization and the constitutionality of a 2018 Mississippi law that banned abortions after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. The court will also be deciding on whether or not to uphold a poor decision made at the intellectual low ebb of its post-war era. The court made law at Roe v. Wade. And Justice Blackmun's opinion was simply awful in its reasoning. In fact, I would argue that 1973 was the point of origin of the culture wars, because in Roe, the court seized territory reserved for the state legislatures. Will the court let us have peace at the cost of admitting that its ambition to rule was the real spark for the fires long burning? Wisdom, in the express language of the Constitution, counsels it to quit the field. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Folks, I'm talking to my friend Jenna Ellis, and I apologize, but the conversation has become substantive. Let's go back. What is the moral basis of our Constitution? That's the title of your book.
Yes.
It is really vital that people understand this. Can you make that case in short order?
Yeah, so our Declaration of Independence gives us the worldview statement that our founders unanimously recognize that when governments are abridging and infringing upon our rights that are God-given, then we appeal to the highest source of moral law, which is God himself. He is the personification of truth. And they said unanimously in the Declaration that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They went on to say that governments are instituted among men only to protect and preserve those rights. And so they then gave the mandate to the Constitutional Convention. With the Articles of Confederation were not working. The Constitutional Convention derived how can we best implement a system of government whose mandate is to protect and preserve our rights that are God-given, because our rights do not come from government, they come from God. It's the government's job to protect and preserve those rights. That's why we have the First Amendment, and all of our Bill of Rights is actually a Bill of Protections. Congress, in case you weren't clear,
Larry, you got to run. Please, Larry, the wise sage of South Central, run. Please run, and I will sprint to the polls to vote for you, okay? I'm going to sprint in there. I'm not going to walk. I'm not going to run. I am going to sprint, okay? Because you're the wise sage of South Central, and we need somebody like you to shake California up. I mean, if you are in there, you're going to set an example. This is one of the biggest states in the United States, and you're going to really set an example. Everybody's going to be looking at you. You'll really, really help us a lot. Larry, please run. Do it. Don't listen to anybody else. Run. Love you, Larry. You're the best.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. A few more comments about my gentleman caller, Michael from San Francisco. San Francisco is a city that's got an increasingly declining percentage of blacks living in it. You know why? Because the cost of living is so damn high. You know why that is? Because of left-wing policies that have discouraged the construction of new homes. You care about that, Michael? Honestly. 2021, racism has never been a less significant factor in American life, but it seems to me Democrats have rarely been talking more about racism. Why? Why? Did Obama not happen? Did I just dream that there was a black president for 8 years who took down Hillary, one of the best funded, best prepared candidates ever? Did I just dream the poll that was in 2007 by Gallup, when Obama was competing for the nomination against Hillary, and when Mitt Romney was competing against the nomination on the Republican side against John McCain? Gallup asked Americans, what percentage of you would not vote for a black person? The number was 5%. What percentage of you would not vote for a female? The number was 11%. What percentage of you would not vote for a Mormon? The number was 24%. What percentage of you would not vote for somebody who would be 72 years old at the time he became president, referring to John McCain? 42%. Obama had a lower hurdle than these three white politicians. Michael said, well, Larry, you said everything is perfect now. When did I say that? See, what you do is take something I didn't say and then attack that. What I said was hard work wins. Get out of life what you put into it. You can't control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. Where did I hear that? My father. Anybody had a right to feel like Michael feels? It's my dad. Doesn't know his biological father. Left school in the 8th grade. Thrown out of the house by his mother at the age of 13. Worked 2 full-time jobs as a janitor. Saved his nickels and dimes. Moved us uptown to South Central. Educated all 3 of his kids. Started a small business. Ran it successfully until his mid-80s. Bought property next to it. And I'm supposed to feel that somehow racism is holding black people back today? It's insulting. I don't know what race Michael is, whether he's a white guy trying to show how woke he is, or whether he's a black guy misled by the left wing to feel that racism is holding him back and that Larry Elder somehow is a bad guy. All I know is this nonsense is doing a number on this country. We ought to be talking about crime. We ought to be talking about homelessness. We ought to be talking about the cost of living, the possibility of inflation, possibility of terror. I'm talking about Islamo-fascist terror as we pull out, in my opinion, irresponsibly from Afghanistan without leaving a stay-behind force. We're not talking about that. We're talking about critical race theory. In the NEA, did they talk about how kids K through 12 are not getting a sufficient education? Did they talk about the 13 public high schools in Baltimore where 0% can do math at grade level and another half a dozen where 1% can? Did they talk about that? At this NEA meeting where they adopted this critical race theory curriculum? It's insulting. Brookings Institution, millennial success sequence, finish high school, don't have a kid until you get married, get a job. They didn't say that only applies to white people. How is this helpful? But explain this to me. Maxine Waters says black people, Corey Bush rather, from St. Louis says black people still aren't free. Is she worried about the, 300 homicides in St. Louis last year? A city that's about 45% black? 90% of the homicides black on black. Is that because of racism? Michael said, yes, because I said, Michael, the number one problem facing black America is a lack of fathers. Is that because of racism? Yes, it is. Really, Michael? Michael, 1890. Census show that in many cities, a black kid was more likely than a white kid to be born to a family with the mother, father married. More likely. This is a new phenomenon. I was on Fox News some years ago, and I said even during slavery, a black kid was more likely to be born under a roof with his biological mother and biological father. I get home, headline in Media Matters, a left-wing website, Elder says blacks better off during slavery. Talk about taking what somebody said and twisting it to make an argument. It's insulting. Systemic racism on the part of the cops. Give me your evidence. 50 million interactions every single year on average between the police and civilian. 11 million arrests. Tens of thousands of officers assaulted every year. 50 to 60 died last year. 2 or 3 times as many cops were killed as unarmed blacks. Anybody give a damn about those cops? Researchers at Washington State over decades have found, study after study after study, the police 3 times more hesitant to pull the trigger on a black suspect than a white suspect. 3 times. It's insulting. Town like Baltimore, where Freddie Gray died in police custody in 2015, black mayor, black police chief, city council, all Democrat, majority black. State attorney who brought the charges, black. The judge before 2 of the officers tried their cases, by the way, and found them not guilty, black. 3 of the 6 officers charged, black. The U.S. Attorney General at the time, black. The President of the United States at the time, black. And we're talking about systemic racism? It's insulting. It's ridiculous. Now, some say there might be over 100 million folks struggling with some level of pain, whether back, neck, shoulder, hip, knee pain, whether from exercise or just getting up in the morning and dealing with people like Michael. If that sounds like you, I suggest you try ordering the 3-week Quick Start. Still discounted to only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee to stay out of pain. The doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free ingredients, to deal with pain from a separate metabolic pathway. That's right, from a separate metabolic pathway. 4 angles may very well be why so many people find such wonderful relief. Over 70% of those who order the 3-week Quick Start go on to order more. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Instead, I think there was a massive story recently on whether or not Donald Trump had his pants on backwards or forwards, or the cicada that fell on Joe Biden's neck. These were the major stories of the last couple days.
It's crazy. And I mean, we've gotten to a point where 79% of independents, this was midway through Trump's presidency, of independents, these are not Republicans, said that they believe that the press intentionally makes up fake stories and intentionally reports them. So the good news is people recognize it. Edelman Trust Barometer gauges the trust of different institutions. They found the media is at their lowest point of trust. So the American people are wise to this. They do see the headlines. They are smart. But when you get to a point where big media colludes with big tech, that's where it becomes highly problematic. There was a poll out recently that I think it was 1 in 6 Biden voters would have changed their vote had they heard about the Hunter Biden story. You talk about influencing an election. There's simply no doubt that Twitter and big media and big tech altogether influenced an election.
Yeah, and it was the most interfered with election in American history. And I mean, the fact you could suppress the New York Post story because we don't like what they have to say, even though it ended up being totally true. Yeah. And then, that was another lie, that this was somehow Russian intelligence.
Right.
Remember? And by the way, not only that, last year we went through 2 impeachments. Right. We went through one in the Ukraine and the other one was ridiculous. And we had to go the whole phone call thing. Then a couple months later, we had to deal with the whole virus and the lab leak. And if the Democrats actually wanted to permanently sever the country, they're doing a great job.
Yes, they are. But the point to Russian disinformation, this is where it becomes so laughable that anyone with a brain cell can see through the antics of the press.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at
Hi, Larry. Second-time caller. Love your show. I think you should run for governor. I'd vote for you. I'd back you. I ran trucks in California for over 30 years. They've shut down over 300 truck yards in the San Bernardino, Riverside area. My truck yard was one of them. They've trucks out of commission because they have to have DEF and they have to be newer than 2010. They're destroying the backbone of this country. And, transportation costs have tripled. I know. I'm in it. I've got a pulse on this. Inflation is going to ravage us if we're not, it's going to ravage us, period.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com, so not to worry. The Biden administration insists it's, quote, transitory, close quote. Now, the doctors who formulated Relief Factor are on a mission. They want to get you out of pain. If you're struggling with back, neck, shoulder, hip, knee pain from muscle aches and pains through exercise or just getting up in the morning and dealing with malcontents, I suggest you give the 3-week Relief Factor Quick Start a shot. It's only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than the cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. The doctors who formulated it selected 4 ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free, to attack pain from a different metabolic pathway. Over 70% of those who order the 3-week quick start go on to order more. Just go to relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384. Tom is in Minneapolis. Tom, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
Hey, Larry.
Tom, how are you?
Well, I'm completely behind you running, and I think you'll do very well. Any idea where Rick Grinnell's going? Because you get his support. I have a feeling he's going to bow out. You get his support. And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah?
Tom, go ahead.
You get his support, which I think he would give you, and I don't think you'd stop. I don't think you could be stopped. As far as Michael goes, oh boy, that was hard to listen to.
It was tough to listen to.
Yelling at me. And I don't know that he doesn't realize how racist it sounds. I'm guessing he's a teacher in the San Francisco area, and it's too bad that the American founding didn't come up, because that is the first and biggest travesty of the whole critical race theory premise, which includes the 1619 Project.
Absolutely. It's ludicrous. America was founded to preserve slavery. That's what the 1619 Project essentially says. It's already been debunked. New York Times has had to retract much of what she said in that ridiculous piece called the 1619 Project. Michael, if you're still listening, the number one problem facing Black America is not racism. It's people like you who don't understand the number one problem is fatherlessness. I'm Larry Elder.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Sometime next year, the Supreme Court will decide whether to continue to find the right to abortion in the Constitution or give up on its deeply misguided half-century-long effort to do so. The court will have before it the case of Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization and the constitutionality of a 2018 Mississippi law that banned abortions after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. The court will also be deciding on whether or not to uphold a poor decision made at the intellectual low ebb of its post-war era. The court made law at Roe v. Wade, and Justice Blackmun's opinion was simply awful in its reasoning. In fact, I would argue the 1973 was the point of origin of the culture wars, because in Roe, the court seized territory reserved for the state legislatures. Will the court let us have peace at the cost of admitting that its ambition to rule was the real spark for the fires long burning? Wisdom, in the express language of the Constitution, counsels it to quit the field. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Folks, I'm talking to my friend Jenna Ellis, and I apologize, but the conversation has become substantive. Let's go back. What is the moral basis of our Constitution? That's the title of your book.
Yes.
It is really vital that people understand this. Can you make that case in short order?
Yeah, so our Declaration of Independence gives us the worldview statement that our founders unanimously recognize that when governments are abridging and infringing upon our rights that are God-given, then we appeal to the highest source of moral law, which is God himself. He is the personification of truth. And they said unanimously in the Declaration that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They went on to say that governments are instituted among men only to protect and preserve those rights. And so they then gave the mandate to the Constitutional Convention. With the Articles of Confederation were not working. The Constitutional Convention derived how can we best implement a system of government whose mandate is to protect and preserve our rights that are God-given, because our rights do not come from government. They come from God. It's the government's job to protect and preserve those rights. That's why we have the First Amendment. And all of our Bill of Rights is actually a bill of protections. Congress, in case you weren't clear that you have a limited role, these are the things and the rights that are God-given that governments most frequently infringe on. So like what we're doing right now, our First Amendment, speaking together about truth, that's freedom of speech, freedom of association, free exercise of religion, those are not given by the government. It is obligated by the Constitution that our government protects those rights.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is, we can talk stories about the deep state, but when I realized the extent of it was when I met somebody in the White House who had the same rank as me, which is Deputy Assistant to the President. There's not a lot of us. There's like 42 in the whole of U.S. government. And I find out that this individual, you're not conscripted to be a DAP, okay? You volunteer to be a politically commissioned officer of the President of the United States. This guy, he volunteered to work in the Trump White House, utterly and completely detested his boss. And I mean the president. And the idea that you would volunteer for a position of honor, of trust at the highest level of U.S. government, but detest the person elected by 65 million Americans, that is one definition of the deep state, and that's why it's real. That's why you've got to see this movie, The Plot Against the President. You've got to read the book. This is how I got to know that the deep state is a real thing. So I'm not a member of the NSC, but because of the clearances and the job I had, I'd get all the invites to the NSC until McMaster pulled me off the list. Okay, first thing. The National Security Advisor removed me from this.
Was it the same day he pulled Bannon out and all of that? Because he did that to everybody.
It was actually before Steve, I think, got in trouble.
You should be proud of that.
Yes, I'll put that on my resume.
You were actually the top of the list, and as soon as McMaster came in, he's like, I've got to get rid of these five guys.
I can tell you stories about McMaster.
Yeah.
So I'd go to the NSC meetings. These are the highest level policy making meetings in America. I mean, you can have the principals, but they rarely meet the cabinet members. This is the NSC beneath principals.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Some lawyer hit a little girl.
Former cancer patient Sharon Blackwell was struck by an oncoming vehicle.
Take this into evidence, sir. I need to call my wife.
You've been accused of texting while driving.
Before you take your daughter off life support, give God room to be God.
You're not guaranteed another day, but you have today.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Wall Street Journal editorial. Politicians in Washington renege on their bipartisan promises all the time. But what are they to make of a deal in which one side admits it's pulling a bait and switch from the start? That was the astonishing news Thursday as President Biden and Speaker Nancy Pelosi endorsed a bipartisan Senate infrastructure deal, even as they said the price of their support is getting the rest of their agenda too. There's the picture if you're watching on our YouTube channel. 2 hours later. He said he wouldn't sign the infrastructure bill unless the Senate also passes the other $3 trillion or more he has proposed in tax increases and multiple new entitlement programs. The Journal adds most politicians at least wait a decent interval to pull a double cross, but with Mrs. Pelosi and Mr. Biden are trying to prevent a revolt on the left. So they are now holding a bipartisan deal hostage to the left's demand. That is political blackmail aimed at Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who are part of the bipartisan Senate Gang of 10. Unless they sign on to all of the progressive tax and spend agenda, they won't get their bipartisan deal, and Mr. Biden and progressives will blame.
888 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. When I was living in Ohio, moved there from law school, I'm setting up my television, cable, everything, and TV was on the news, local Ohio news. And it was a story about these steel workers living in the Canton, Akron area, where there was, at the time, 25% unemployment. And they were all talking about how they couldn't find jobs. Now, to my knowledge, every single one of the persons complaining about his or her inability to find a job was white. And as I was unpacking boxes, I'm listening to this, and I was saying, move, move, move. So sitting around feeling sorry for yourself is not something that's just germane to people like Michael from San Francisco. A lot of people do that. But when you're being told that you don't have opportunity because of systemic racism, and by the way, you have to look at history through the lens of race, and the fact that 70% of black kids enter the world without a father married to the mother is because of racism, what is your shot? What is your chance? What are you telling people? And you got these Democrat lawmakers, Cori Bush from St. Louis. Here's what she tweeted on the 4th of July, quote, when they say that about the 4th of July is about American freedom, remember this, the freedom they're referring to is for white people. This land is stolen land and black people still aren't free. Really? A few years ago, Congress gave the Montford Point Marines, one of whom was my dad, a Congressional Gold Medal. My dad received his posthumously at Camp Pendleton at a ceremony arranged by California Democrat Republican Dana Rawbecker. Colonel Jason Bohm is the speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, the commanding officer of 5th Marine Regiment, Colonel Jason Bohm.
Congressman Rohrabacher, General Colonies, General Monday, members of the Elder family, members of the Montford Point Marine Association, the 1st Marine Division Association, Dana Point Support Group, fellow commanders, sergeants major, Marines, and sailors. We are honored that you joined us today to recognize the service of one of our own, Staff Sergeant Randolph Elder. It is appropriate that we hold this ceremony here on the hallowed ground in which the Fighting 5th Marines memorializes the service and the sacrifice of our brothers in arms. I use the word brothers because that is what we are. The Marine Corps is a family, and our motto of Semper Fidelis, or always faithful to our God, to our country, and to our Corps, creates a bond that nothing can sever. So just as we remember those of this fine regiment who fell in battle, we also remember all of those who once wore the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Staff Sergeant Elder was one of these men. He was our brother. But it wasn't always this way. In the days leading up to World War II, the United States was a segregated society in which the African American community faced bigotry, racial prejudice, and discrimination. It was not until June 25th of 1941, just 5 months before the bombing of Pearl Harbor thrust us into the Second World War, that President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued an executive order, number 8802, and first opened the door for African Americans to serve in all branches of the armed services. He stated, in affirming the policy of full participation in the defense program by all persons, regardless of color, race, creed, or national origin, all departments of the government, including the armed forces, shall lead the way in erasing discrimination over color and race. But even with this direction, the Marine Corps was slow to embrace bringing African Americans into its ranks. In fact, many doubted whether African Americans would meet the high standards that the Marine Corps was known for. There was little doubt about how some in the Marine Corps felt about accepting these men into the Corps when the Commandant at the time stated, The Negro race has every opportunity now to satisfy its aspirations for combat in the Army, a very much larger organization than the Navy or Marine Corps. And their desire to enter the naval service is largely, I think, to break into a club that doesn't want them. Regardless of the Commandant's protest, our nation's civilian leadership saw the need for equity and allowing Americans and African Americans to serve proudly in the nation's naval service, and announced in April 1942 that a battalion of 900 African Americans would be formed in the Marine Corps once suitable training sites were established. The battalion would be organized into a composite defense battalion consisting of coastal artillery, anti-aircraft artillery, tanks, and infantry to defend overseas bases like those of Wake, Johnson, and Midway Islands that had already seen action against Japanese forces in the opening salvos of World War II. But before the battalion could be formed, it first needed a place to train and recruits to fill its ranks. The site chosen to train the first African American Marines was a rugged and heavily wooded area, 5.5 acres large, at a site near Jacksonville, North Carolina, called Montford Point. Montford Point was located near a sprawling area near the New River that would soon become known as Camp Lejeune, the major East Coast combat training site for Fleet Marine forces at the time, and still today. The first recruits were used to build the now famous camp of wooded huts so others could follow and begin their training. Soon they would all be braving a variety of threats, ranging from the swagger sticks of tough drill instructors to the snakes, mosquitoes, and bears that inhabited the area. As the camp was built, the call went out, and the country's African American communities responded. Recruits started piling in from the north and from the south, from all walks of life. They came for different reasons. Some wanted the challenge of being a Marine, some wanted to earn a living, but they all came to serve their country honorably, regardless of still being treated like second-class citizens. Randolph Elder was one of these men. We are honored to be joined this morning by Larry and Kirk Elder, Staff Sergeant Elder's 2 surviving sons and their families. Randolph Elder was born in Athens, Georgia in 1915, and he grew up during the Great Depression. He would work a number of odd jobs, such as being a bellboy, a shoe shiner, a valet, and a cook, and before becoming a porter on the railroad and getting his first taste of California. Like many Americans at the outbreak of World War II, Randolph Elder chose to serve his country, but he wouldn't settle for any service. He wanted to be one of the best. Although he knew it would be challenging, Randolph enlisted in the Marine Corps and would be sent to Montford Point, where he would earn the title of Marine. Based on past job experience, Private Elder at the time was made a cook, a job critically important to the Marine Corps. Because any Marine will tell you that there are 2 things you don't mess with a Marine, his pay and his chow. Living up to the ethos of the Corps, of every Marine a rifleman and a fighter, regardless of what their primary job is, Private Elder was trained for combat and was sent overseas to the Pacific Theater to prepare for the expected invasion of Japan. He would spend his time in the Pacific on the island of Guam and performed so well he was promoted 4 times, attaining the rank of Staff Sergeant. Like many veterans following the end of the war, Randolph Elder was challenged to find work, but the perseverance, work ethic, and commitment to excellence that he learned growing up during the Depression and as a Marine would lead to him eventually opening up his own restaurant in the Pico Union area of Los Angeles.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Who knew my father was defending white supremacy? I am Larry Elder. Do not leave town.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
All right, now let's move to the so-called bipartisan deal. This is 2 parts, Eliana. Substantively, it's not a deal. 2 hours later, the president and Nancy Pelosi said whatever they'd agreed to with the bipartisan group of senators wasn't going to pass absent another $1 trillion+ in spending and tax hikes, which means there's no deal. But secondly, Mitch McConnell will not let that get through. No one should have reported that as a bipartisan deal. And I talked about this with John Allen. It's just absolute terrible reporting to call it a bipartisan breakthrough when 2 hours later the president reneges. Agree or disagree?
I think that's right, although it wasn't clear that I was surprised by Biden's move. I wasn't sure that he would land where Pelosi was, and I was surprised to see him say that. I think having spoken to a handful of Republican senators about this, the Republican strategy was to back a more narrow infrastructure bill that contains the popular items and then sort of leave Democrats holding the bag on this really expensive bill. I think it's something they believe they could campaign against Democrats against in the midterm elections. And what happened was essentially the Democrats saying they're putting the goodie bag deal first. And I think there are a lot of things that could happen. That first bill could go nowhere if Manchin and Sinema don't support it. Or that bill could pass and the quote-unquote bipartisan deal on infrastructure, I think it's unlikely to pass after that.
Otherwise, the Republicans are the dumbest group of senators I've ever seen if they agree to this thing. And I mean dumb, and Mitch McConnell is anything but dumb.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
So critical race theory actually is indoctrinating our children to tell them that if you are white, you are an oppressor. You are innately designed to be racist. And if you are black, you are oppressed. In other words, you will never have the opportunities that the white person has. And the little boy or the little girl that's sitting beside you in your classroom is the reason why. This is why it's such a divisive, and in itself, it's completely racist.
Well, it is. I mean, that's what I love about people who scream racism are often guilty of the racism themselves. I mean, it's the quintessential projection. How can you condemn children who've done nothing wrong? How do you make victims and oppressors out of kids in elementary school?
Well, this is what fired me up. This is what got me initially so upset, is that, I watch my 10-year-old son play football with little boys from every race, from every walk of life, every religion. And I watch them as they help each other up on the field when they get knocked down. I watch them give each other high fives. I watch them do chest bumps, right? They are not thinking, oh, you're black, so I can't touch you, or, oh, you're less than me. Guess what? They've got blacks, whites, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews. They're all playing together, and they're all respecting each other, and they're all caring for each other. Why would you put such a divisive theory or ideology into a school system?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at
He would faithfully run the Elder Snack Bar for 30 years, raising a family in the process and instilling many of the values he learned as a Marine into his sons. Having gone through a time of racism and bigotry, Randolph Elder overcame. He would raise his sons to understand that the sky is the limit and they should follow their dreams. But his legacy goes beyond that of his immediate family. The hard work, superior performance, and professionalism of Staff Sergeant Elder and his fellow Montford Point Marines broke down the barriers and opened the doors to future generations of African Americans, resulting in a Marine Corps today in which one is judged on the value they bring to the table and not by their race, color, or gender.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. My name is Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio, and as you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everybody get the best sleep of his or her life. It didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike created the new Giza Dream bed sheets. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is vital for my busy schedule. Mike has found the world's best cotton. It's called Giza. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. Mike's Giza sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. First night you sleep on a Giza sheet, you'll never want to sleep on anything else. Giza Dream sheets come in a variety of sizes and colors, and Mike is making a special offer for my listeners. You're going to receive 2-for-1 low price plus free shipping. Just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use promo code Larry. There you'll find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow mattress topper, the MyPillow towel sets, and so much more. Just call 1-800-890-1843. Be sure and use promo code Larry. That's 1-800-890-1843, or go to mypillow.com. Again, make sure you use promo code Larry. Ray is in Livermore, California. Ray, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you for sharing the wonderful story of your dad and all of that rich story of his life and how much it means. It's wonderful that you share that with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my first message, if there's time, I have two topics, but run, Larry, run.
I was going to say, Ray, we got time. We got time.
Okay. Run, Larry, run is my first topic, but don't let them Arnold you. You saw what happened to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He went in with a fanfare, and he made a couple shots at it, and then just gave up to the other side. And I know you're not a quitter, Larry, but the Republican Party in California is probably going to abandon you, much like the National Party abandoned the president. And that would be my second thing to watch out for, is that you'll get no help from Repubs nationwide or in the state. You'll have us, Larry. All of us are out here, just like the 80 million Trump supporters. We're all out here, but you'll be almost a man who's fighting on his own in Sacramento. I'm sorry to say.
Well, there'll be some allies there. There are a few, not just a few. There's some Republicans there who are as frustrated as you are and as frustrated as I am. They're just boxed in. But you're absolutely right. There are a lot of squishies up there that get along and go along. You know, one of the things that's happened in this state, Ray, is that we have term limits. And I knew that when they passed term limits some decades ago, things weren't going to get any better, and they're not. And all it's done is given the staffers and the special interests a lot more power, because the politicians come in, they're looking for their next job, they have no idea what to do. They say, what should I sign? They sign it, and things have just gotten worse.
Yeah, and the president, we saw the president suffer that the first year or two, that recommendations for staff were given to him, and they all were turncoats. They were all working to undermine him. So please, beware of that.
Right.
Bring in your own people if you can, Larry. Bring in your own guys.
Will do.
And have your own close group. Subject number 2, absence of fathers in the home. Larry, you couldn't hit the target more center than that. And the left and all of their policies that have caused this, they just run away from it. That's the last thing they want to hear. And Michael in San Francisco, you ran from it too. I don't think Michael in San Francisco even understood himself what his arguments were. Nonetheless, the rest of us.
Well, Ray,
but my brother and I turned, real quick, we turned into two feral young men after the death of my father. And my sister ran off and married a man who was really no good for her, pregnant before she got married, and ultimately divorced because of the absence of a father, Larry. It's so basic. And thank you for making that fight. That is a wonderful place to stand your ground. Thank you.
Ray, I like the way you put it. You and your brother became feral. You remember that football player for the New England Patriots, Aaron Hernandez? He ended up. I think he ended up getting convicted of murder. He had a wonderful life. Things were going well until his father died, and he went feral.
Yeah, the father is a guardrail system for your highway, and when you start to get off the side of the road, he bangs you back into the highway. And absent of those guardrails, you just run off the road and off into the ditch and wherever down the side of the hill, wherever you end up. You know, it's sad. My brother and I both ended up in the Army, and I think that straightened both of us out, gave us some purpose, and let us know that the world wasn't about us. It was about something bigger. And So thank you again for standing that ground, Larry. It's a great place to stand, and someone needs to be there, and you're there. Thank you.
Well, God bless you, Ray. Thank you so much for the call. By the way, I'm asking people if you think I ought to run. And I've set up a personal email address. Just give me your thoughts. LarryAelder@gmail.com. LarryAelder@gmail.com. I just want your thoughts. What do you think? Some people think that my platform here is bigger. Some people think that it'll be a bigger platform if I'm governor. Some people think that because this state is going to hell in a handbasket, and that I might very well be able to do something about it. Want me to? But I'm listening. Haven't made a decision just yet, but I certainly am listening. So let me know what your thoughts are. LarryAelder@gmail.com. LarryAelder@gmail.com. And Ray, thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. Ted is in Clearwater, Florida. Ted, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Hey, Larry, love your show. I listen all the time.
Thank you.
But I was telling your screener. This little game I play when I check out of a store. I look at the price and I kind of convert it into a year in my head, and I'm like, was that a good year or a bad year? You know. And so I happened to be checking out of an Aldi's, and the price was $18.95, and just happened to be a young black man at the register. I said, $18.95. You know, I bet that was a pretty good year. And he said, well, not for my people. I'm like, wait a minute. We're 30 years after the Civil War. The slaves are freed. It was called the Gilded Age. We weren't at war with anybody. Income tax hadn't been invented yet. We just got the telephone. We're a few years away from having airplanes. I mean, what's the problem? And he's like, it just wasn't good for my people. We still were slaves. I'm like, no. This is 35 years later. And he's like, I said, okay, wait a minute. I tried to look at it. Okay, things had magically changed in the South overnight, but certainly by 1870, any freed black had certainly made his way north or west and gone to places where slavery had never existed. You know, the new territories or New England. I mean, I grew up in New England. And I said, he could have certainly made it out of the Deep South like 5 years later. And he said, well, those places weren't any better. And I'm like,
wow. Where
do you go from here when you're like in your early 20s and you're that jaded about something that happened 150 years before you were born? But
Ted, thank you very much for the call. Wow. Tom Sowell said one time, somebody said, well, there's still a gap. And he said, well, white people haven't stood still. They kept going too. I'm Larry Elder.
Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
And it's fascinating to read it. That, yes, we who supported Donald Trump were into blood and soil ethno-nationalism. It's amazing. He would certainly not be able to account for me and for the vast number of people that, relatively speaking for an individual that I know, some of the finest, most open human beings. As I said for much of my life, if you are black and you feel a little unloved, just go to a Trump rally or go to any conservative or any Republican event. You will get more love than you will the rest of the year all put together. But we're blood and soil ethno-nationalists. All right, so I've read to you that part. There's some more here that is very important, though, actually, in this article. The man's name is Hamid. I assume he is, not assume, he is of Middle East extraction. Shadi Hamid, Hamid, America Without God. That is the name of the piece. So obviously anything like that I read, especially if it's in the Atlantic. And he observes correctly, though the United States wasn't founded as a Christian nation, Christianity was always intertwined with America's self-definition. Without it, Americans, conservatives and liberals alike, no longer have a common culture.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Some lawyer hit a little girl.
The community is left in shock as former cancer patient Sharon Blackwell was struck by an oncoming vehicle.
Take this into evidence, sir. I need to call my wife.
You've been accused of texting while driving.
We don't make an example out of this guy, the public will crucify us.
Before you take your daughter off life support, give God room to be God.
You're not guaranteed another day, but you have today.
Get back or I'll shoot you.
No one's left inside for the pastor and his two daughters.
If you run, I'll shoot your family. Nobody cares whether I live or die. It's bad.
I'm not going to stand around and be a part of it anymore. Give me the gun. No.
Stream on your phone.
Yes, Larry Elder, happy birthday to the United States of America, obviously. Just got through listening to a treasure, and that treasure was Red Skelton online, who I don't know when it was done, but his version of the Pledge of Allegiance, which was just a magnificent oratory of something that he went through as a child, and he was doing the principal of his school when he was a child. But that rendition of his is an absolute American treasure, as was Red Skelton himself, and all the missing patriots and talent that we've lost over the years.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Fox News gave the latest report on the crisis on the border. We'll be talking about later on. And a lefty named Mark Lamont Hill, who I watch on CNN and MSNBC, so you don't have to, got into a real set-to with Judge Joe Brown over the release of Bill Cosby. Mark Lamont Hill made the argument that despite the fact that Cosby has been released on what many people call a legal technicality, essentially a prior prosecutor promised not to criminally go after Bill Cosby if Bill Cosby testified truthfully in a deposition against him. And the deposition came out, and in the deposition, Cosby admits that he gave women drugs, including Quaaludes, in order to have sex. When when the opposing counsel, when the prosecutor asked him whether or not the women knew they were taking this, did this with consent, the lawyer refused to allow Bill Cosby to answer. So we do know in his deposition that Cosby admitted giving drugs to women, plural, for sex, including Quaaludes. But when the prosecution asked whether the women were aware of these drugs, whether they gave these drugs with their consent, the lawyer interjected and refused to allow Bill Cosby to answer. And to my knowledge, the lawyer got away with it, and Cosby never did answer that question. So Mark Lamont Hill said that just because Cosby is free doesn't mean that he is absolved from these charges. And Judge Joe Brown jumped all over him. The more disturbing thing is not just what Joe Brown said. If you go online and look at the comments, virtually every comment agreed with Judge Joe Brown and slammed Mark Lamont Hill. Again, I'm not a fan of Mark Lamont Hill. I don't think he's a very sharp guy. He won't let you finish a sentence before interrupting. And he got a taste of his own medicine. That was the only part of it that I found pleasant. But the things that Joe Brown was saying about the women who made accusations shocking, and even more shocking, the comments, one after another, backing up Joe Brown and slamming the women. Now about 60 that have made allegations against Bill Cosby, and those are only the ones who've come forward. Beverly Johnson, the model who made an allegation against Bill Cosby, says she knows 4 or 5 other women who also have allegations but were too afraid to come forward. We'll be talking about that later on. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Ann is in Fort Worth, Texas. Ann, you're on the Larry Elder Show. Thank you so much for calling.
You're welcome. I have, I think, a more accurate and more apropos meaning for the acronym CRT.
Okay.
To my mind, it means criminally revisionist tactics.
I like it.
I was hoping that you would. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Ann, thank you. You know, you remember when Ibram Kendi, the, quote, anti-racist professor, was asked to give his definition of racism?
You talked about the importance of defining racism. But I, unless I missed it, which is possible, I didn't hear your personal definition. Is there one that you would offer us? Like, how do you define racism?
Sure. So racism, I would define it as a collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas.
Let me interject right here. Notice the laughter. And the reason people were laughing, and for what I can tell, this appeared to be a mostly white audience. The reason people were laughing is because they thought he was joking. And so the reporter asked him to do that over again. And he said the same thing.
Are substantiated by racist ideas. Sure. A collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas. And anti-racism is pretty simple, using the same terms. Anti-racism is a collection of anti-racist policies leading to racial, anybody want to take a guess?
Anybody want to take a guess? How condescending is that? And anti-racism leads, anybody want to take a guess?
Leading to racial, anybody want to take a guess? Equity that are substantiated by anti-racist ideas.
The hell does that even just say? What did he say? This man can't even explain what racism is. Imagine trying to explain what critical race theory is. Unbelievable. Racist policies based on racial ideas which lead to racist outcomes. Clear as mud. Secrets out, people are abandoning their overpriced wireless carriers, flocking to Pure Talk for the same coverage at a fraction of the price. If you're with Verizon, AT&T or T-Mobile, switching to Pure Talk could save your family over $800 a year. Switching is easy. Keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. I got a new iPhone SE, and I can tell you the service is fantastic. Plus, right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data, all for just $30 a month. And if you go over data, they do not charge you for it. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, and why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. Friends, it is time to start saving money. So from your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Larry Elder, and save an additional $50 off your first month. That's pound 250 and say Larry Elder, pound 250 and say Larry Elder.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
All right, now let's move to the so-called bipartisan deal. This is 2 parts, Eliana. Substantively, it's not a deal. 2 hours later, the president and Nancy Pelosi said whatever they'd agreed to with the bipartisan group of senators wasn't going to pass absent another $1 trillion+ in spending and tax hikes, which means there's no deal. But secondly, Mitch McConnell will not let that get through. No one should have reported that as a bipartisan deal. And I talked about this with John Allen. It's just absolute terrible reporting to call it a bipartisan breakthrough when 2 hours later the president reneges. Agree or disagree?
I think that's right, although it wasn't clear that I was surprised by Biden's move. I wasn't sure that he would land where Pelosi was, and I was surprised to see him say that I think having spoken to a handful of Republican senators about this, the Republican strategy was to back a more narrow infrastructure bill that contains the popular items and then sort of leave Democrats holding the bag on this really expensive bill. I think it's something they believe they could campaign against Democrats against in the midterm elections. And what happened was essentially the Democrats saying they're putting the goodie bag deal first. And I think there are a lot of things that could happen. That first bill could go nowhere if Manchin and Sinema don't support it. Or that bill could pass and the quote-unquote bipartisan deal on infrastructure, I think it's unlikely to pass after that.
Otherwise, the Republicans are the dumbest group of senators I've ever seen if they agree to this thing. And I mean dumb, and Mitch McConnell is anything but dumb.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
So critical race theory actually is indoctrinating our children to tell them that if you are white, you are an oppressor. You are innately designed to be racist. And if you are Black, you are oppressed. In other words, you will never have the opportunities that the white person has. And the little boy or the little girl that's sitting beside you in your classroom is the reason why. This is why it's such a divisive, and in itself, it's completely racist.
Well, it is. I mean, that's what I love about people who scream racism are often guilty of the racism themselves. I mean, it's the quintessential projection. How can you condemn?
Larry, Joe, in Prescott Valley. Hope you're doing fantastic. Listen, Don Dix is saying that you're going to be running for governor. Dennis Prager saying you're not running for governor. In fact, he said you would never want to work with all the insane people in California, which I totally agree with. This is why I am proposing that the free state of Arizona is looking for a new governor, and I know that you've talked to Kerry Lake, who seems like a very great candidate. But, Larry, why don't you get out of Commie Cal, get over here, be our next governor, and live free in a beautiful place. And you can come up to Prescott Valley where it's not 120 degrees and enjoy the beautiful weather. Hope you come here, Larry. Have a great day.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. You know, the topography of Arizona is not unlike parts of California, yet they don't have the forest fire problem that we do. Pourquoi? Anyway, thank you very much for that. Now, you've been hearing me speak about how great Nina is doing on her soda weight loss plan, but I thought it was time that you heard directly from her. Nina, can you talk about the weight loss journey you're on?
I have been on the soda weight loss plan for 6 weeks now, and I have lost over 18 pounds. Yes, you heard it, 18 pounds. The soda experience has been amazing. The plan is easy to follow, and my coach helps keep me accountable. Overall, I am really happy with this program. I was afraid I'd be hungry all the time, but I'm not at all.
Now, nutritionally, what do you think makes this plan different?
Other diets have made me feel like I'm starving my body of nutrients, but soda does not make me feel that way at all.
So, be like Nina. If you can't be like Mike, be smart. Stop the excuses and the procrastination, and follow her advice to get healthy and look great with soda weight loss. SOTA. Soda weight loss. That stands for state of the art. SodaWeightLoss.com. That's SodaWeightLoss.com. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. Later on, we're going to talk about the exchange between Mark Lamont Hill and Judge Joe Brown over the release of Bill Cosby. Also, the attack on America by these House Democrats. I mentioned what Cori Bush said. Here's what Maxine Waters said, quote, July 4th. And so the Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal. Equal to what? What men? Only white men? Isn't it something they wrote in this 1776 when African Americans were enslaved? They weren't thinking about us then, but we're thinking about us now. End of quote. She also said that, quote, 17 states have enacted voter suppression laws, close quote. You know, the Supreme Court recently affirmed the alleged voter suppression laws in Arizona 6-3, so that didn't work out. We're going to talk a little bit more about this and about what Smokey Robinson feels about the term, quote, African American and what he feels about America in general. Call Smokey Robinson and Uncle Tom. Gary is in New York. Gary, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Mr. Elder.
Sir.
What an honor it is and privilege to speak to you. I listen to you. I just started listening to you about a year ago. And I'm very conservative. I'm just like you. And we need your help up here, Larry. We really do. You know, New York is just, it's not the same anymore. What I wanted to talk to you about is, I was an educator. I'm also, a retired school teacher. And, I taught down in Tennessee where there was, the thing is, when little kids play, Larry, right, they don't consider color.
No, they sure don't.
Of course, God, the Bible says God made man in his image. Not Democratic, not Republican, not Marxist, not socialist, not communistic. He made him in his image. And I don't get off with these stupid people with this critical race theory. I thought this went out when Dr. Martin Luther King said, listen, we're all brothers and sisters. We're supposed to all be getting along. But look what happened to him. And too bad he's still in the line. He's rolled over in his grave today, Mr. Elder, and what an honor it is and privilege to talk to you,
Well, Gary, thank you very much for that. I thought the goal was to evaluate people, as MLK said, based upon the content of their character, not color of their skin. That's what I thought. And as I said at the beginning of the program, when he was interviewed, Mr. McConnell, if you can find that piece where MLK was talking about him believing that there could be a black president in about 40 years, let's let me know and just hit it. As I said, he could have said a number of things. He could have said when we have a thriving black middle class, which we do. We have a growing number of black doctors and lawyers and accountants, which we do. I've told you in 1940, 87% of blacks lived below the federally defined level of poverty. 20 years later, that number had dropped to 47%. That's the biggest 20-year period of economic expansion for blacks in American history. Before the Civil Rights Act of 64, mostly before the Brown versus Board of Education of 1954, certainly before the Loving versus Virginia case in 1967. Yeah, this is MLK in 1964. Now, I know that Jesse Jackson knows this is a con. Multi-millionaire. One of his sons has an Anheuser-Busch distributorship. Another son became a member of Congress. He knows this is nonsense. Sharpton, multi-millionaire. Sharpton had a nice middle-class life until his father abandoned the family, then down to the ghetto. If anybody ought to understand the connection between having a father and having a sound, stable life, it's somebody like Al Sharpton. I mentioned to you before, Jesse Jackson's mother was a teenage mom who got impregnated by the married man next door. When Jesse Jackson grew up, kids taunted him and said, Jesse ain't got no daddy, Jesse ain't got no daddy. That's how unusual it was for somebody not to have a father at that time. It is far and away the number one problem facing America. Now, the doctors who formulated Relief Factor selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free, to deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. Each of the 4 ingredients deals with pain from a different angle. It may very well be why so many people find such wonderful relief. If you've got back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise to just getting up in the morning and dealing with life, consider ordering the 3-week Relief Factor Quick Start. Still discounted to only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, well, less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. Just go to relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Folks, I'm talking to my friend Jenna Ellis, and I apologize, but the conversation has become substantive. Let's go back. What is the moral basis of our Constitution? That's the title of your book.
Yes.
It is really vital that people understand this. Can you make that case in short order?
Yeah, so our Declaration of Independence gives us the worldview statement that our founders unanimously recognize that when governments are abridging and infringing upon our rights that are God-given, then we appeal to the highest source of moral law, which is God himself. He is the personification of truth. And they said unanimously in the Declaration that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They went on to say that governments are instituted among men only to protect and preserve those rights. And so they then gave the mandate to the Constitutional Convention. With the Articles of Confederation, we're not working. The Constitutional Convention derived how can we best implement a system of government whose mandate is to protect and preserve our right that are God-given, because our rights do not come from government, they come from God. It's the government's job to protect and preserve those rights. That's why we have the First Amendment, and all of our Bill of Rights is actually a Bill of Protections. Congress, in case you weren't clear that you have a limited role, these are the things and the rights that are God-given that governments most frequently infringe on. So like what we're doing right now, our First Amendment, speaking together about truth, that's freedom of speech, freedom of association, free exercise of religion, those are not given by the government. It is obligated by the Constitution that our government protects those rights.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Hit that back up.
Hey, Larry, this is David. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I just wanted to say that, Democrats are always looking for they say don't let a good tragedy go to waste or whatnot. They are going to blame the condo falling down on Republicans and on them not doing the infrastructure bill. Because you didn't sign the infrastructure bill, that building fell down, and those people are dead because of you, Republicans. They're going to turn it around, and I guarantee they will soon.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com student. I think I've even heard some people blame the crash of that condo on global warming.
Dumb as a bag of hair.
Robert is in St. Paul, Minnesota. Robert, you're on the Larry Elder Show.
Hey, Larry. Just wanted to say, God has got, I believe, platforms, bigger platforms for people like you and others. And you got a big one. But just like Jason Lewis, when he left the radio, look what he went on to do. So listen, Gov. You like that name, Gov?
It does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
I think it's a good idea.
Governor Elder does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Well, Robert, thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it. But it does have kind of a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Got to be older to have a name like Elder. 888-971-SAG. Again, Robert, as I mentioned earlier, I have a personal email number that I set up just to get people's temperature to find out what you think I should do. It's LarryAElder@gmail.com. That's LarryAElder@gmail.com. Fox News this morning gave the latest report on the crisis on the border. I'm sorry, don't call it a crisis.
Another very active morning out here in La Jolla. Just a short time ago, we witnessed really a massive group being apprehended, and we want to show you that video right now. Take a look from our Fox drone from right here where we were standing a couple of hours ago. In my 4 trips to the border during this surge, this was the biggest single group I've ever seen apprehended at one time. This was well over 100 migrants who crossed illegally and were taken into custody by Border Patrol, mostly moms and children. The ones I talked to said they were all from Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Some of the moms we saw breastfeeding. Some of the young children were coughing. Border agents have been telling us for the past week a lot of the folks coming over have been testing positive for COVID-19. We heard Governor Abbott call for help the other week, and now that help is showing up. Take a look at some of these photos provided to us by Texas DPS. Law enforcement from Florida and Nebraska have already arrived in Texas. They're in the Del Rio sector right now. This is Florida State Troopers and Nebraska State Troopers, where they're currently helping out Texas State Troopers with their border operations. I'm told they sent over troopers, investigators, shallow water boats, and 1 fixed-wing aircraft. More help is on the way from Iowa, Idaho, Arkansas, and South Carolina, but not everybody is happy with that help. Take a look at what a group called LULAC had to say. This is the League of United Latin American Citizens. They sent a letter to President Biden on 4th of July urging.
More on this on the other side. And Smokey Robinson on why he doesn't use the term African American and why he loves America. I'm Larry Elder.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
So critical race theory actually is indoctrinating our children to tell them that if you are white, you are an oppressor. You are innately designed to be racist. And if you are black, you are oppressed. In other words, you will never have the opportunities that the white person has. And the little boy or the little girl that's sitting beside you in your classroom is the reason why. This is why it's such a divisive, and in itself, it's completely racist.
Well, it is. I mean, that's what I love about people who scream racism are often guilty of the racism themselves. I mean, this it's the quintessential projection. How can you condemn children who've done nothing wrong? How do you make victims and oppressors out of kids in elementary school?
Well, this is what fired me up. This is what got me initially so upset, is that, you know, I watch my 10-year-old son play football with little boys from every race, from every walk of life, every religion. And I watch them as they help each other up on the field when they get knocked down. I watch them give each other high fives. I watch them do chest bumps, right? They are not thinking, oh, you're black, so I can't touch you, or, oh, you're less than me. Guess what? They've got blacks, whites, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jews. They're all playing together, and they're all respecting each other, and they're all caring for each other. Why would you put such a divisive theory or ideology into a school system?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
Jews wrote half of the most popular Christmas songs. I mean, statistically, this is not, it's just a fact. And even though it was not their religious holiday, it was their national holiday. Christmas was a unifying thing for Americans till the left crapped on Christmas and changed Christmas party to holiday party, and Christmas vacation to holiday vacation, and Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays. And then, as usual, they deny they did it. Just like now, they deny that they ever called for the defunding of police. Every leftist lies or they wouldn't be a leftist. Liberals lie and tell truth. Conservatives lie and tell truth. But leftists all lie. They lie with the ease with which they speak. We make war on Christmas? How laughable. We called for the defunding of police? What, are you out of your minds? I read to you that last week. That's the new thing. We never said defund the police. Yeah, that's right. We changed everything with the word Christmas into holiday, but hey, there's no war on Christmas. And people believe it. For better and worse, the United States really is one of a kind. And he speaks about America, as I have often, as based on an idea. It's the point. It's not an ethnic country. It's an idea. You have the American idea, you are American. That's the way it is. We don't care about your ethnicity, believe it or not.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Sometime next year, the Supreme Court will decide whether to continue to find the right to abortion in the Constitution or give up on its deeply misguided half-century-long effort to do so. The court will have before it the case of Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization and the constitutionality of a 2018 Mississippi law that banned abortions after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. The court will also be deciding on whether or not to uphold a poor decision made at the intellectual low ebb of its post-war era. The court made law at Roe v. Wade, and Justice Blackmun's opinion was simply awful in its reasoning. In fact, I would argue the 1973 was the point of origin of the culture wars, because in Roe, the court seized territory reserved for the state legislatures. Will the court let us have peace at the cost of admitting that its ambition to rule was the real spark for the fires long burning? Wisdom, in the express language of the Constitution, counsels it to quit the field. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Folks, I'm talking to my friend Jenna Ellis, and I apologize, but the conversation has become substantive. Let's go back. What is the moral basis of our Constitution? That's the title of your book.
Yes.
It is really vital that people understand this. Can you make that case in short order?
Yeah, so our Declaration of Independence gives us the worldview statement that our founders unanimously recognize that when governments are abridging and infringing upon our rights that are God-given, then we appeal to the highest source of moral law, which is God himself. He is the personification of truth. And they said unanimously in the Declaration that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They went on to say that governments are instituted among men only to protect and preserve those rights. And so they then gave the mandate to the Constitutional Convention. With the Articles of Confederation were not working. The Constitutional Convention derived how can we best implement a system of government whose mandate is to protect and preserve our rights that are God-given, because our rights do not come from government, they come from God. It's the government's job to protect and preserve those rights. That's why we have the First Amendment, and all of our Bill of Rights is actually a bill of protections. Congress, in case you weren't clear that you have a limited role, these are the things and the rights that are God-given that governments most frequently infringe on. So like what we're doing right now, our First Amendment speaking together about truth, that's freedom of speech, freedom of association, free exercise of religion, those are not given by the government. It is obligated by the Constitution that our government protects those rights.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
weekend of 2021. 104 people shot, 19 killed, 13 kids among the wounded. According to the Chicago Sun-Times database of shootings, this is the high for 2021 weekend. According to the Chicago Tribune, 3 people shot. Man with concealed carry license steps in, shoots gunman, Chicago police say. Gunman has shot 3 people standing in a South Austin alley on the 4th of July. May have gotten away with the brazen attack that left a woman dead. Had a witness with a concealed carry license not stepped in, according to the Chicago police statement. Officers called to the first block of North Minard Avenue around 10:45 p.m. Sunday. Found a total of 4 people shot, but one of the injured men was alleged to be the gunman who had shot the other 3 people before an uninvolved witness pulled his own gun and shot the attacker, officials say. I wonder how often that happens. That somebody with a concealed carry thwarts an attack. I've told you that criminologist Gary Kleck from a university in Florida estimates that Americans use a firearm 1.25 million times every year, often just brandishing it to thwart off an attack. Of that number, 40% believe but for the firearm they would have suffered serious injury or possibly death. I don't know whether our friend who called the first hour, how he would analyze this. My suspicion is he'd probably blame it on racism. Chicago. Black mayor, black police chief, black public superintendent of schools. Tough to pin this on systemic racism, isn't it? But I'm sure there's a way. Now, Smokey Robinson talked about why he doesn't use the term African American. We're talking about the unpatriotic comments made by people like Representative Cori Bush and Maxine Waters. Cori Bush says black people really aren't free. And as far as Maxine Waters is concerned, well, Declaration of Independence just said all men are free. They weren't talking about us. Tell that to Smokey Robinson.
I love being black. I love being called black. I love being an American. I love being a black American. But as a black man in this country, I think it's a shame that every few years we get a change of name. Since those first ships arrived here from Africa that came across the sea, there were already black men in this country who were free. And as for those who came over on those terrible boats, they were called and slave and told what to do and how to behave. And then Master started tripping, doing his midnight tipping down to the slave shacks where he forced he and great-great-grandma to be together. And if great-great-grandpa protested, he got tarred and feathered. And at the same time, the black men in the country who were free were mating with the tribes like the Apache and the Cherokee. And as a result of all that, we're a parade of every shade. And in this late day and age, you can be sure there ain't too many of us in this country whose bloodline is pure. But according to a geographical genealogy study published in Time magazine, the black African people were the first on the scene. So for what it's worth, the black African people were the first on earth, and through migration our characteristics started to change and rearrange to adapt to whatever climate we migrated to. And that's how I became me and you became you. So if we're going to go back, let's go all the way back. And if Adam was black and Eve was black, then that kind of makes it a natural fact that everybody in America is an African American. Everybody in Europe is an African European. Everybody in the Orient is an African Asian, and so on and so on. That is, if the origin of man is what we're going to go on. And if one drop of black blood makes you black like they say, then everybody's black anyway. So quit trying to change my identity. I'm already who I was meant to be. I'm a black American born and raised. And Brother James Brown wrote a wonderful phrase. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Because I'm proud to be black. And I ain't never lived in Africa. And because my great-great-granddaddy on my daddy's side did, don't mean I want to go back. Now, I have nothing against Africa. It's where some of the most beautiful places and people in the world are found. But I've been blessed to go a lot of places in this world. And if you ask me where I choose to live, I pick America, hands down. Now, by and by, we were called Negroes. And after a while, that name was banished. Anyway, Negro is just how you say black in Spanish. Then we were called colored. Which said everybody's one color or another, and I think it's a shame that we hold that against each other. And it seems like we reverted back to a time when being called black was an insult. Even if it was another black man who said it, a fight would result. Because we've been so brainwashed that black was wrong, till even the yellow niggas and the black niggas couldn't get along. But then came the 1960s, when we struggled and died to be called equal and black, and we walked with pride with our heads held high and our shoulders pushed back. And black was beautiful. But I guess that wasn't good enough. Because now here they come with some other stuff. Who comes up with this shit anyway? Was it one or a group of niggas just sitting around one day? Feeling a little insecure again about being called black and decided that African American sounded a little more exotic. Well, I think you were being a little more neurotic. It's that same mentality that got Amos and Andy put off there because they were embarrassed about the way the characters spoke. And as a result of that action, a lot of wonderful black actors ended up broke. When we were just laughing and having fun about ourselves. So I say, F you if you can't take a joke. You didn't see the Beverly Hillbillies being protested by white folks. And if you think that, of course you think that being called African American sets all black people's minds at ease, since we affectionately call each other, I affectionately say to you, please. How come I didn't get a chance to vote on who I'd like to be? Who gave you the right to make that decision for me? I ain't under your rule or in your dominion, and I'm entitled to my own opinion. Now, there are some African Americans here, but they recently moved here from places like Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Zaire. But not a brother whose family's lived in this country for generations, occupying space in all the locations, New York, Miami, LA, Detroit, Chicago. Even if he's wearing a dashiki and sporting an afro. And if you go to Africa in search of your race, you'll find out quick, you're not an African American. You're just a black American in Africa taking up space. Why you keep trying to attach yourself to a continent, or even if you got the chance to go and you went, most people there wouldn't even claim you as one of them, as a purebred daughter or son of them. Your heritage is right here now, no matter what you call yourself or what you say. And a lot of people died to make it that way. And if you think America's the leader on inequality and suffering and grieving, how come there's so many people coming and so few leaving? Rather than all this fine thought with America you're promoting, if you want to change something, use your privilege. Get to the polls, come and support them. God knows we've earned the right to be called American Americans and be free at last. And rather than you moving forward with progress, you're dwelling in the past. We've struggled too long, we've come too far. Instead of focusing on who we were, let's be proud of who we are. We're the only people whose name is always a trend. When is this going to end? Look at all the different colors of our skin. Black is not our color, it's our core. It's what we've been living and fighting and dying for. But if you choose to be called African American and that's your preference, then I give you that reference. But I know on this issue I don't stand alone on my own. And if I do, then let me be me. And I'd appreciate it if when you see me, you say, there goes a man who says it loud. I'm black. I'm black. I'm a black American and I'm proud. Because I love being an American. And I love being black. I love being called black. Yeah, I said it. And I don't take it back.
Cori Bush, when they say that the 4th of July is about American freedom, remember this, the freedom we're referring to is for white people. This land is stolen and black people still aren't free. Send your cards and letters to Smokey Robinson, 888-971-SAG. When we come back, Rev. Skelton had a few things to say about the racist Pledge of Allegiance. I'm Larry Elder.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, booyah!
Beat a little bit. Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Things just happened.
My girlfriend and my best friend.
You got 30 days to grow up, son.
Nathan Hanning, it is good to have you home.
Nona, it's Nathan.
Well, you don't mind my giving her your room, do you?
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
After an hour, I just raised my hand, and there's me, the guy with the accent, saying, "Ladies, gentlemen, can I remind you what the president said yesterday about destroying the caliphate when he was in Warsaw? Can I remind you what the president said about Russia's threat to Europe?" And it's like, who do these people think they are? They just think that they don't matter and the will of the people and who they elected is irrelevant, Amanda.
No, it's the exact same thing that I saw. The best line that I got is when I got into it with somebody because I was like, well, I was trying to speak bureaucrat and I was like, okay, fine. Like, I got it. You need orders to come from the exact person that you report to. And I got to play the little math game and the whole thing. I was like, we did that. Why aren't you doing this? Why are you not following this chain of command that you so worship? And they were like, well, I don't work for the secretary. I don't work for the president. I work for the State Department. And I was like, what is this?
Hang on. Somebody actually said that to you?
Yes, they fully said that in all
work for the
totally
State
earnestly.
Department.
And I was like, what do you think this is? Like a sovereign state that's just on these like 6 city blocks? Like you think that this is like its own nation and it's determined by the will of like bureaucrat X? It was the craziest thing. And I was like, the fact that they even were willing, because usually they pretend to kiss the behind of the secretary in phrase, but they don't. And it was just amazing because they were just out with it. I mean, this stuff happened all the time. I mean, you know that. It was and like I said, the one that really pissed me off were the fact that there was political appointees that did the same thing, that they thought their job was to clean up after the embarrassment of the campaign promises or that the things the president said.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Get back or I'll shoot you.
No one's left inside for the pastor and his 2 daughters.
If you run, I'll shoot your family. Nobody cares whether I live or die. It's bad.
I'm not going to stand around and be a part of it anymore. Give me the gun.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
The image of seeing parents dragged out of a school board meeting being arrested by the police, really, really ugly. And I've seen a lot of ugly comments online about the police officer.
Hey, Larry, thanks for taking my call. So the Democrats are now flipping it over and saying that Republicans are the ones that are actually defunding the police because of some stupid bill, that in that bill there was also funding for the cops. It's just like this infrastructure bill. Only 5% of it goes for infrastructure, and if you're not pro the bill, they say you're against infrastructure. And that's ridiculous. If they would have a bill where it would say you got to put crocodiles in everybody's backyards, in everybody in the United States' homes' backyards, and also in the bill would be some infrastructure. If you're not for the bill, then you're against infrastructure? No, you're against putting alligators in people's backyards and people's homes.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReallyFactor.com studio. Well, the secret's out. People are abandoning their overpriced wireless carriers, flocking to Pure Talk for the same coverage, but at a fraction of the price. If you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, switching to Pure Talk could save your family over $800 a year. And switching is so easy. You can keep your phone, keep your number, or get huge discounts on the latest iPhones and Androids. I got a new iPhone SE, and I can tell you the service is fantastic. Plus, right now, Get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data for just $30 a month. And if you go over data, they don't charge you for it. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs. I'm laughing because of Phil of Philadelphia's call. I'm going to take in just a second. There's a reason Pure Talk is the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, why they're the preferred wireless partner of AMAC. Friends, it is time to start saving money. So from your cell phone, dial pound 250 and say Larry Elder and save an additional $50 off your first month. That's pound 250, say Larry Elder, pound 250 and say Larry Elder. Phil is in Philadelphia. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing great, Larry. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Don't hurt me.
By the way, I'm not in Philadelphia. I'm in Alhambra, California, and I want to say run, Larry, run.
Wow, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'll work for you.
So that means you can vote for me.
Of course.
All right.
I can, and I could work for you too. I'm an El Dorado. I'll go knock on doors.
Well, I'm going to say if I do this, I'm going to need a lot of volunteers.
You bet.
All right. Appreciate it.
You got it. So I called up because right at the end of the last hour, you said that you had to be older to have a name like Elder. And then you had a senior moment right after that. You said talking about the gubernatorial run.
Right.
You said you set up an email number.
Right, as opposed to email address.
Like Biden.
It sounds like Biden. Well, I told you had to be older to have a name like Elder, and I just confirmed it. But you're right. It is an email address, larryaelder@gmail.com. And all I want to do is hear from you. Let me know what you think I ought to do, pros and cons. Give me your thoughts. I'm just taking people's temperature before I decide whether or not I want to do this. But Phil, thank you so much. It was a Joe Biden-esque moment. And I did say email number. I meant email address, larryaelder@gmail.com. Now, we were talking about the attack on the 4th of July by Cori Bush, first-time Congresswoman from Missouri. Quote, when I say that the 4th of July is about American freedom, remember this, the freedom we're referring to is for white people. This land is stolen land and black people still aren't free. Maxine Waters said this, quote, 4th of July, and so the Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal. Equal to what? What men? Only white men? Isn't it something they wrote in this 1776 when African Americans were enslaved? They weren't thinking about us then, but we're thinking about us now. She also said 17 states have enacted, quote, voter suppression laws, close quote. Why we didn't hear this attack on the 4th of July and on the Declaration of Independence when you know who was in the White House for 8 years? Barack Obama. Where was the attack on the 4th? Where was the attack on the Declaration of Independence? Where was the attack then? Here's what the great Red Skelton said about the Pledge of Allegiance, which I suppose is equally for just white people.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Larry Elder, we come back. Mark Lamont Hill versus Judge Joe Brown on Bill Cosby. Don't leave town.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Surprise!
Sharon and I.
Sharon and you what?
Things just happened.
My girlfriend and my best friend.
You got 30 days to grow up, son.
Nathan Hanning! It is good to have you home.
Nona, it's Nathan.
Well, you don't mind my giving her your room, do you?
Really though, thanks for thinking of me for this position.
I thought about you first. Come on, growing up, I had a huge crush on you.
There are things that we all need to change about ourselves, but we can't blame God because He helps us change.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
School board chair is a woman named Brenda Sheridan, and she's not backing down at all. In fact, indeed, they're doubling down on the school board. She said tonight, this is how she responded apparently on Tuesday. She said, quote, "Tonight, the Loudoun County School Board meeting was interrupted by those who wish to use the public comment period to disrupt our work and disrespect each other." She said, "Dog whistle politics will not delay our work. We will not back down from fighting for the rights of our students and continuing our focus on equity."
Okay, Mike,
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. What is their work? Because for the past year and a half, it took us fighting to get our students to even get back into a hybrid schedule. They couldn't even focus on our education. What is their work exactly?
Yeah.
Their work exactly is to listen to their parents, who actually are the constituents and the voices of their children. The school board is not the voice of my child.
Well, and I'd like to also ask you about 2 fundamental aspects of her statement. Number one, how did you interrupt those who are using the public comment period? How did you disrupt their work, and how did you disrespect each other?
Actually, we didn't disrespect each other. Actually, we started singing the Star Spangled Banner when they got up.
No wonder they were triggered. No wonder. Yeah. You can't have a flag.
God forbid that we honor our country. God forbid we honor our flag.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
218 out with him. Headed for the house. He's got a hostage.
You believe in God, Chip. Why does a kid die? Drug dealer get off scot-free.
Well, the only answer to that is there isn't a God.
You have a choice. You can either let the darkness overtake you, or you can be a bearer of the light.
So just think of it as calling for backup.
Officer down, officer.
You're the one God's called to be a shepherd.
Keeper, do you know who I am?
You are the author?
I am.
I don't know you.
Keeper, it's your son.
Hurry it up. Time is short.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Larry, we need your voice in Sacramento, but I surely would miss it on the radio. But I think you are uniquely qualified to bring some sanity back to the state. Please run.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Again, thank you so much for the love and support. I haven't decided what to do, but I am getting your reaction to find out what you think. And if you can drop me a line at larryaelder@gmail.com, that would be great. larryaelder@gmail.com. I'll read them all. Just let me know what you think. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. There's a piece in the Jewish Voice. We have it up on larryaelder.com. Trump must be extremely clean. This is all the New York prosecutors can come up with. And it turns out that the Trump Organization CFO named Alan Weisselberg surrendered early Thursday last week to New York authorities for arraignment in the first criminal indictment arising from the 2-year investigation into the former president's company, according to the Associated Press. But the charges relate to paying perks for executives without showing those perks on their W-2 forms and paying income taxes and payroll taxes on said perks. And the writer for the Jewish Voice questioned whether the Washington Post, New York Times, and other media outlets have not done the same thing, and whether or not they've investigated other corporations other than the Trump Organization to find out whether or not they've done the same thing. Quote, all corporations, including WAPO, Washington Post, and the New York Times, should now be investigated to make sure that no executives of their companies ever get free stuff like country club dues or special transportation without paying income and payroll taxes. The Trump Organization also got in trouble for paying private tuition. Therefore, quote, every university that gives free or subsidized tuition to its administrators and professors will now be charged with a crime, and that perk will be cut off. Does anybody think that'll happen? Every airline that gives free flights to its employees and family members will now have to stop giving that perk, right? Since there's no legitimate basis for a business purpose for that expense. Pelosi and other members of Congress, he writes, will now have to pay full freight every time a family goes on a flight on a government-owned plane. Why do taxpayers pay for this in the first place? Maybe a bill to Joe Biden and the government will be for all the flights that Hunter took on Air Force Two. Such a bill would be massive, as he was going overseas to line up as many kickbacks as he could from foreign countries and companies. After all, Joe said he never talked with Hunter about anything, so, there's no way that these flights could have any legitimate business purpose, right? Quote, Donald Trump must be extremely clean because after all the years of targeted investigations by the IRS, the FBI, the media, Congress, and New York prosecutors, this is all they could come up with? This is clearly evidence that this was a witch hunt in search of a crime instead of an investigation because there was evidence of a crime. I've told you about this prosecutor who campaigned promising to get Trump. Talk about a violation of this man's rights. Quote, the DNC and the Hillary campaign committees were having so much trouble finding dirt on Trump, they had to pay a foreign national over $10 million to create a fictional dossier to destroy him. Media and other Democrats even had to create the lies about Russian collusion in their efforts to take Trump out. There was never one piece of evidence of Russian collusion, but since Trump's low-tax, smaller government policies were very popular and were lifting people of all races and educational levels up, he had to be destroyed, he writes. After all, the media and the Democrats care about power, not great results, so they had to intentionally mislead the public. He concludes with this, quote, most of the media will still pretend there is nothing political about the Obama and Biden administration's FBI and IRS and the New York prosecutor. I bet if the New York prosecutor's office looked for a few minutes into the Clinton Foundation, it might find inappropriate payments and activity. I might also add National Action Network by Al Sharpton and Operation Rainbow Push by Jesse Jackson. I bet you they're probably not squeaky clean either. Quote, Hillary, Biden, Lois Lerner, Comey, McCabe, Eric Holder, and others could violate as many laws as they like with no repercussions, but the Trump organization is charged with paying inappropriate perks. As the media and Democrats continue to pretend no one is above the law. End of quote. Article in the Jewish Voice by Jack Hellner. Headline, Trump must be extremely clean as if this is all the prosecutors came up with. End of quote. A Black Lives Matter, remember, defended Chicago stealing? I mentioned that because stealing dramatically up. Stores now being cut down as a result of store hours being shortened as a result of the stealing. I want to remind you of what a Black Lives Matter activist said in Chicago about the stealing that took place in that town. Now, you've been hearing me speak about how great Nina's been doing on the soda weight loss plan, but I thought it was time you heard directly from her. So, Nina, can you talk about the weight loss journey that you're on?
I have been on the soda weight loss plan for 6 weeks now, and I have lost over 18 pounds. Yes, you heard it, 18 pounds. The soda experience has been amazing. The plan is easy to follow, and my coach helps keep me accountable. Overall, I am really happy with this program. I was afraid I'd be hungry all the time, but I'm not at all.
Now, what makes the plan so different?
Other diets have made me feel like I'm starving my body of nutrients, but soda does not make me feel that way at all.
Stop the excuses. SodaWeightLoss.com. SodaWeightLoss.com. SOTA. SodaWeightLoss.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
All right, now let's move to the so-called bipartisan deal. This is two parts, Eliana. Substantively, it's not a deal. 2 hours later, the president and Nancy Pelosi said whatever they'd agreed to with the bipartisan group of senators wasn't going to pass absent another $1 trillion+ in spending and tax hikes, which means there's no deal. But secondly, Mitch McConnell will not let that get through. No one should have reported that as a bipartisan deal. And I talked about this with John Allen. It's just absolute terrible reporting to call it a bipartisan breakthrough when 2 hours later the president reneges. Agree or disagree?
I think that's right, although it wasn't clear that I was surprised by Biden's move. I wasn't sure that he would land where Pelosi was, and I was surprised to see him say that. I think having spoken to a handful of Republican senators about this. The Republican strategy was to back a more narrow infrastructure bill that contains the popular items, and then sort of leave Democrats holding the bag on this really expensive bill. I think it's something they believe they could campaign against Democrats against in the midterm elections. And what happened was essentially the Democrats saying they're putting the goodie bag deal first. And I think there are a lot of things that could happen. That first bill could go nowhere if Manchin and Sinema don't support it. Or that bill could pass and the quote-unquote bipartisan deal on infrastructure, I think, is unlikely to pass after that.
Otherwise, you know, the Republicans are the dumbest group of senators I've ever seen if they agree to this thing. And I mean dumb, and Mitch McConnell is anything but dumb.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
So critical race theory actually is indoctrinating our children to tell them that if you are white, you are an oppressor. You are innately designed to be racist. And if you are black, you are oppressed. In other words, you will never have the opportunities that the white person has. And the little boy or the little girl that's sitting beside you in your class.
Hey, Larry. Terry out of Minneapolis. Hey, there's millions of us highly educated independents who will not vote for Donald Trump ever again. What are they going to do about it? Will not vote for him. He cannot be the candidate running next. Just letting you know. Thanks, Larry.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Well, 2024 is a long way away. Lots of things can happen. But Donald Trump remains enormously popular within the party, and if he is the nominee again, I most certainly will support him. 888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. This is just bizarre. Listen to part of this exchange between Mark Lamont Hill and Judge Joe Brown over Bill Cosby's release.
If we, again, assuming Bill Cosby doesn't take the legal stuff off the table, if we look at the depositions, the very thing that got him ultimately, the thing that ultimately got him locked up, and those depositions, and he's talking about the various women he had sex with giving them alcohol and pills, whether it's Quaaludes or Benadryl. If you look at the dozens of women who come forward and accuse him, is there room to say, look, Bill Cosby can come home because the prosecutor was wrong, but Bill Cosby also has to be accountable for what he represents and for acts of and for predator-like behavior?
What about these women being accountable for their own behavior? They were groupies. Well, sex, drugs, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rap, sex, drugs, baseball, football, basketball, movies, television. See?
Yeah, but right now I'm talking about Bill Cosby. I'm saying
we forgot what that term meant. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. The bimbos come to the party, they hang out, they get drunk, they snort lines of blow, and they have a good time. They use the hall closets to give head, the bathrooms to get down, and you go in to get your coat off of the bed, and they're laying on top of it doing somebody. See, that's what that's about. So,
yeah, but
let's not get sanctimonious.
It has to be consensual,
25,
though.
30, 40, 50 years after something was in big-time style. When this stuff started out, the sexual revolution was going on. And a lot of women got into it deeply.
Okay, but so there's two things you raised. But first, let's talk about Bill Cosby. We can talk about the women, but let's talk about Bill Cosby. Let's talk about Bill Cosby for a second, because that's the person we're talking about. My question was, is there room to what did he do? Well, according to the deposition, he gave women pills. In one deposition, he specifically said he didn't know whether.
Force it down their throat,
no, let me finish.
He didn't take advantage of them. Look at that interview Whoopi Goldberg did with that model Johnson. Whoopi got all. So wait a minute. You're trying to tell me
hold on, Judge. Let me ask the question.
Found out you were high. He called the cab, took the elevator down with you, put you in the cab, paid your fare, tipped the man, and sent you home because you were high. So what did he do?
So in one deposition, So, Judge, in one deposition specifically, when he was asked the question, was he sure that the woman was sober enough to consent? He said, "I don't know." But there's a bigger question here: is if someone willingly takes pills and becomes high and drunk, can they legally consent?
Sometimes you can. Used to be you could. They had a change in there back 25 years ago when they were saying no, you can't. But before that, basically you could. That's why they told
right.
you.
So, but we're talking about the
sober.
law. So then, Judge, again, since you're saying we should appeal to the law, if the law says that you can't be
intoxication, where you did something to them they didn't consent to. See, that's when that law started changing from you got yourself drunk, you are responsible to know the bartender's responsible because he lets you get drunk. That's when that change started coming
Bill
about.
Cosby's admitting. Bill Cosby's admitting to giving women alcohol and pills for the purpose of having sex, and if by the law you can't consent if you're drunk or high,
go out to dinner or you have a party or something. So
yeah,
does
but that's not the same. That's irrelevant, Judge.
Of because they do something they would have done anyway. A whole lot of them I knew back in the years with
sexual assault, Judge.
Particularly quaaludes. They did that a lot. I had a lot of female clients I had to get out of messes because they had a fondness for quaaludes. It's not cool,
yeah, but it's
I mean,
okay to take.
Don't you bear any responsibility for this, especially if you keep going back?
So, Judge, let me. I want to lay this out plainly, just so, and I'll give you a chance to respond. I'll even give you the last word. If you give someone drugs and alcohol, even if they want to take the drugs and alcohol, if they get to a point where they are inebriated, where they are high or drunk, you cannot have sex with them. It is not sex, it becomes rape. And even by the legal standard that you're saying we should appeal to...
That's only the law in certain states. It's not for every state. And it goes into the same philosophy. It goes into the same thing. I didn't know I was going to get that drunk, so it ain't my fault I got a DUI and kill somebody. How you think that's going to float?
Right, but the difference is the drunk person has a responsibility to not.
On the East Coast who want a new
category. The drunk person has a responsibility not to get into the car.
It's called rape by
but the drunk
seduction.
person does not have a responsibility not to get into the responsibility.
And you decide to have a good meal, linen, candlelight, wine, dine. You go for a walk in the park. My place or yours. Get over there. Kissy, kissy, poo, seduction. Clothes come off. Everybody has a good time. This crowd wants that to be called
everybody isn't having a good time. One person's being assaulted. Right, but what I'm saying, Judge, and I got to run.
See, that's the point. He never admitted to what he did, was accused of, which is
how many people in your court admitted to what they did that were guilty?
All they did was they asked for it. I supplied it. They wanted it.
Okay,
that's like put some candles on and some incense when we do it. Let's go out and have a fine meal. Some Pinot Noir, some Cabernet Sauvignon,
giving somebody
to go with the prime rib and the lobster. And then we, after we leave the 5-star restaurant, we got a nice walk in the park.
This honestly is, with all due respect, is the most disturbing interview I've ever had in my life.
No, but see, you are into this thing where everybody's got to be protected. This society does not work when the society's obligation is to protect somebody from being stupid. You protect somebody's rights.
To protect somebody from being raped, but we got to go, Judge Joe Brown. We can have a conversation, but I got to run commercial break. It's way past commercial break.
Just like you can't protect somebody from liability for killing someone in a fatal DUI because the bartender didn't stop serving them when they kept asking.
Unfortunately, I got to run with way past commercial break. I know you understand that. Thank you for joining the show.
A tough day at the office for Mark Lamont Hill. So all of these 60 women are lying. Wow. Now, the doctors who formulated Relief Factor for them selected the 4 best ingredients, each of which are 100% drug-free to help your body deal with pain from a different metabolic pathway. That's right, 4 different angles. So if you've got back, shoulder, neck, hip, foot, knee pain from exercise, or just getting older, I suggest you consider ordering the 3-week Quick Start. Still discounted to only $19.95. That is less than $1 a day to see if we can get you out of pain. After that, we're talking about less than the cost of a cup of coffee a day for you to stay out of pain. Over 70% of those who ordered the 3-week Quick Start go on to order more. Give your body what it needs to heal itself. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
Streaming on Salem Now.
218 out with him. Headed for the house. He's got a hostage.
You believe in God, Chip. Why does a kid die? Drug dealer get off scot-free.
The only answer to that is there isn't a God.
You have a choice. You can either let the darkness overtake you, or you can be a bearer of the light.
So just think of it as calling for backup.
Officer down, officer down.
You're the one God's called to be a shepherd.
Keeper, do you know who I am?
You are the author?
I am.
I don't know you.
Keeper, it's your son.
Hurry it up. Time is short.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Amanda Milius, is the deep state real?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sat in the room with it, and the scary thing is, and this is the thing that I'm always harping about, which is like I feel like we know the careers are going to be deep state, right? We know
these are the non-political appointees, the career
99% of
bureaucrats.
Yeah, and the thing that I was shocked about, I talked about this the other day, is that I'd get in the room with only political appointees, and I'd be like, okay, we're amongst friends, right? How are we going to get this done? How are we going to make sure we execute the White House's agenda here? And they would look at you like you had three heads, and they'd be like, oh no, we're going to have to figure out a way to tap down their expectations because we can't go to NATO and tell them to pay their fair share.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk.
I just want you to know that we have a congressional baseball game every year. In the very beginning, I used to be a center fielder, and my Walter Mitty dream. Anyway, it's a long story. But my kids only remember two things that ever happened to me in my career. My boys, and they've met kings and queens. They've gone to other countries. But I played in the second congressional baseball game at the old stadium, the old Washington Stadium. And I hit one off the right center field wall, bounced off the wall. I think it's 368, or I don't know what it is exactly now, but off the wall. And I'm rounding, anyway, to make a long story short, my kids remember that. All the rest. And guess what? Only thing I remember, too. Yeah, I thought, what could have been? It could have been. But anyway, and I'm with Cedric Richmond, who's a congressman, a hell of an athlete, pitched in college, and he, we're both hoping that somehow he would do it based on merit. I'm hoping that because I got elected president, I may do it on influence to be inducted into the Congressional Baseball Hall of Fame. You all think I'm kidding, don't you? No. Anyway, so thank you.
888-971-SAGE, 888-971-7243. I am Larry Elder. We are ReliefFactor.com studio. Well, the RNC research director did a little research and found out that in that game that Biden bragged about hitting a 368-foot shot, he went 0 for 2. The next year, he got stuck in traffic and didn't even make it to the game. Wow. This is the guy who claims he visited Nelson Mandela or tried to visit Nelson Mandela when Nelson Mandela was behind bars, that he used to go to black churches and strategize on how to move to desegregate restaurants and movie theaters in Delaware, didn't do it. claims the NAACP endorsed him in all of his races. They endorsed him in none. Unbelievable. If Trump had done this, it would have given fodder for the late night comic for the next 3 weeks. Now, the zip poll question I left you with the last. If you have a child in public school K through 12, is critical race theory being taught to your child in that school? 21% of you said yes. 79% said no. Here is the one for tonight. Do you believe critical race theory is racist? Yes or no? In order to participate, you must be a member of the Zip community. Go to your app store and download the Zip app by searching on the Zip Poll USA, and be sure and use my code SAGE. Be sure and follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, and click on the subscribe button so you can follow us on our YouTube channel. Also, remember the Gmail, LarryAElder@gmail.com, LarryAElder@gmail.com. Give me your thoughts about whether or not you think I ought to run. And I'm going to be on the Hannity Show in about a half hour with Joe Concha, talking about the divisive 4th of July. Do not leave town.